In this session, we're going to look at web page caching. A cached file is simply a saved file, stored someplace where it can be retrieved more quickly and more easily than otherwise. Your web browser caches every page that you visit, unless you've disabled that function, but by default it's there. This makes it so when you press the back button, the page comes up very quickly, as opposed to reloading from the server. And even when you do ask it to reload from the server, often it will use its local versions of files, like images, to bring up the page more quickly. This doesn't help you the first time you go to the page, though. With WordPress, every time a page is viewed, it makes dozens of database calls. The PHP programming language pulls together several different templates and compiles them and organizes all the data and builds the page and then sends it to you. This is much slower than if it were a plain HTML file that it could just send out the door. A WordPress caching plugin will build those plain HTML files on the server so that the very first time anyone goes there, your site is faster. As you can see on this page, for installing plugins, there are over 1,000 plugins available for doing this. They each have their good points, they each have their bad points. We're going to look at one called WP Super Cache. Now that we've activated it, you'll note there's a red warning at the top that says Super Cache is disabled. Please go enable it. So we'll go do that. There's another alert at the top that says WP Cache Constant added to wp-config.php. If you continue to see this warning message, please see point 5 of the frequently asked questions. The WP cache line must be moved up. Your WP config file is the one that holds your username and password for your database and things like that, and it is a centralized configuration file. This plugin just made a change to that file to allow caching to happen at all. You'll note here there are some tabs, and the first one is called Easy. There's one option here, caching on, caching off. We'll turn it on, and it updates status. Now caching is on. At this point, caching is working, and you could just be done. We're going to look at some of the other tabs to see what the other options are, but if you wished, this could be as far as you go with it. There's now a button here to test cache. We'll click that. So the plugin went and got a copy of your site twice, and they both came through the same, and so caching is working. So now WP Super Cache is starting to make copies of every page that people ask for, so that the next person who asks for it gets a cached copy, and it's much faster. At the bottom of this page is an option to delete your server cache. This can be useful if you've made a change to a page and it isn't appearing. Your cache isn't aware that you've made that change, so you could just delete it and it will start over. Cached pages are not served to logged-in users. Because I am logged in right now looking at this admin page, if I went to look at the front end of the site, I would not get a cached version. Now let's take a look at some of the advanced options. Some of these options can be very advanced. You don't need to do them, but they can help you understand better what's going on. Under caching, there are several different ways to cache. PHP is the default because it's the easiest. However, if you use mod rewrite, it can go a little faster. We're going to use the mod rewrite so that I can show you how it's done. Now that I've checked it, I'm going to hit update status, and it says here, the rewrite rules required by this plugin have changed or are missing. Scroll down the advanced settings page and click the update mod rewrite rules button. So let's scroll down there. These are the rules that are going to get updated, and here's the button. And now those rules are updated. And just like that, I'm using mod rewrite to serve cached files. We can also optionally compress pages so that they're served more quickly to visitors. It says here it's disabled by default because some hosts have problems with compressed files. Switching it on and off clears the cache. It won't hurt to turn it on and try your site. If it doesn't come up properly, you can turn it back off. Here's an option that says don't cache pages for known users. This would be people who are logged in and those that comment. This gives them a slightly slower page load, but they're more likely to see new content. Or you can optionally make known users anonymous, so that they are served super cache static files. As you can see, there are many options available here. We won't go through all of them because they're each pretty self-explanatory. Down below here is the expiry time and garbage collection. A cached file is a saved file. If you make a change to your site, it's not going to appear instantly because the saved file is the one that's going to get sent to people. This is where you can say how often the saved files get flushed and get refreshed with new ones. That's called garbage collection. 3600 seconds is 1 hour. So once an hour, those files get flushed, and you start over. If your site doesn't change very often, you can set this to be much longer, and your saved files will last longer. If your site changes very often, you may want to set it lower. You can also optionally have it email you when the files are deleted. Here we have the option of not caching specific page types. If any of those page types changes often, you may not want to cache it. You can specify specific files that are not to be cached. And you can choose not to serve cached files to specific user agents. A user agent is a browser. So if you really wanted to, you could say that Chrome users or Firefox users don't get cached files. That would be foolish. However, search engine robots have their own user agent, and you can serve the very latest data to them. The lockdown option is something you only want to turn on when you know that you're going to get an overwhelming amount of traffic in a very short period of time. This would be if you get listed on a very popular website or something like that. Directly cached files are files that are not part of WordPress, files that you've just uploaded, but you want to be part of the cache because you link to them in some way. This is where you could put in that file name. The next tab is for CDN. A CDN is a content delivery network. A use case for a content delivery network would be if you have a lot of video on your site. You could have that video stored on a server that is custom built to serve video, and it's tuned just for that, and it helps get your video out the door faster. This tab allows you to make your caching plugin aware that some of the files are on a remote server. Next is Contents. This is what's in your cache right now. We have one cached page in our super cache right now, because we've only actually gone to one page since installing this plugin. But the files included in that page can vary. In this case, there's only the one. This page also shows you garbage collection history. It also has buttons to delete expired pages or delete your entire cache. Pages are placed into the cache as they are requested by users. So if you have a page that never gets visited, it won't ever be in the cache. However, this means that the first person to go to that page does not get a cached version. If you would like the first person to get it as well, you can choose to preload all of the pages on your entire site into cache using this tab. There are other plugins which can go hand in hand with this one. However, you need to tell this one that they're there so that it can use them. And lastly is Debug. If something's not working quite right, there are some options here to turn on to help you figure out what's going on. Properly caching your page is not something that's the same for every site. It requires a little practice, a little tuning, adjusting, and tweaking. But once you're done, it can greatly increase the speed of your page loads.